私はここまで弱くなったのか。このままじゃ生き残れん。こんなに弱くては妻に会えん。
それは弱さじゃない、強さの種よ。
For decades, Gabimaru was trained to be empty, no hesitation, no mercy, no feelings. The perfect weapon doesn't think, it doesn't question, and it definitely doesn't feel. This is what made him Gabimaru the Hollow, the deadliest assassin in Iwagakure. He could kill anyone, anytime, without a flicker of emotion. Children, elders, innocents, it didn't matter. He was a blade wielded by his village, and blades don't have hearts. But then something impossible happened. He fell in love, and suddenly the thing that made him unstoppable, his emptiness, his hollowness, his ability to feel nothing, started to crack. Now, standing with a blade at an enemy's throat, Gabimaru discovers he can't kill her. His body won't let him. His mind screams that this is weakness, that hesitation means death, that emotions will destroy him. But what if everything he was taught is wrong? What if the hollowness that made him strong was actually what made him weak? What if feeling, truly feeling, is the most dangerous power of all? This is the philosophy of Gabimaru from Hell's Paradise, a story about what it means to be trained as a weapon and forced to discover you're human, about the journey from hollow to whole, and about learning that the space between emptiness and fullness is where true strength is born. Gabimaru wasn't born hollow, he was made that way. Taken from his parents as a child by the chief of Iwagakure, a brutal shinobi village where strength is the only currency, Gabimaru was thrown into training designed to strip away everything human. Pain tolerance exercises that broke bones, survival tests that killed most children who attempted them, psychological conditioning that taught him emotions were weakness, empathy was failure, and hesitation was death. The goal was simple: create the perfect assassin, and it worked. By his teenage years, Gabimaru had earned the title that defined him, Gabimaru the Hollow. Not because he was empty by nature, but because he had been systematically emptied, every trace of humanity carved out and discarded, leaving only a cold, efficient killing machine. When people called him the Hollow, they meant it as respect, fear, admiration for someone who could take a life without blinking. But here's what they didn't understand. Being hollow isn't strength, it's absence. Gabimaru didn't kill without feeling because he was strong. He killed without feeling because he had been broken so thoroughly that feeling was no longer possible. He wasn't fearless, he was numb, he wasn't ruthless, he was empty, he wasn't powerful, he was programmed. And in that hollowness, there was nothing. No joy, no connection, no purpose beyond the next target. Imagine living like that. Imagine waking up every day knowing you're the best at what you do, but feeling absolutely nothing about it. No pride, no satisfaction, just emptiness. That was Gabimaru's existence for years, a weapon with no will of its own. A hollow shell that moved, killed, and returned to base. Repeat, forever, until her. Her name was Yui, the village chief's daughter. Gabimaru was arranged to marry her, not out of love, but as breeding stock. The village wanted to produce offspring with his legendary assassination skills. He expected nothing from the arrangement. He felt nothing about it. Marriage was just another mission, another thing he had to do. But Yui was different. Where Gabimaru was cold, she was warm. Where he was brutal, she was gentle. Where he saw the world as targets and threats, she saw beauty and possibility. And most importantly, she saw him as human, not as Gabimaru the Hollow. Not as a weapon, not as a tool to be used and discarded. She looked at this assassin, this monster who had killed countless people without hesitation, and she smiled at him, talked to him, treated him like a person, and something inside the Hollow started to crack. Gabimaru didn't understand what was happening to him. After years of feeling nothing, suddenly there was something. When Yui smiled, he wanted to see her smile again. When she spoke gently, he found himself listening. When she touched his hand, something in his chest tightened in a way that wasn't pain, but felt just as intense. He was feeling, and it terrified him. Because in Iwagakure, feelings are weakness. Attachment is liability. Love is the most dangerous thing an assassin can experience. His training screamed at him to shut it down, to return to the hollow, to kill whatever was growing inside him before it killed him first. But he couldn't. Or maybe he didn't want to. For the first time in his life, Gabimaru wanted something that wasn't a mission. He wanted to live. Not survive, not complete objectives, but actually live with Yui. And that's when everything fell apart. The village chief noticed the change in Gabimaru. Noticed that his best weapon was softening, developing attachments, becoming human. And the chief understood what Gabimaru didn't yet. A human assassin is a useless assassin. So the chief arranged for Gabimaru to be betrayed and handed over to the authorities, sentenced to death, thrown onto execution row. The excuse? That Gabimaru wanted to retire, that he wanted to leave the village and live peacefully with Yui. But the real reason was simpler. He wasn't hollow anymore, and that made him worthless. This is the cruelty at the heart of systems that treat people as weapons. You're only valuable as long as you're broken. The moment you start to heal, you become a threat. Gabimaru's greatest crime wasn't any of the murders he committed. It was daring to want something for himself. It was choosing love over duty. It was becoming human again. On execution row, something strange happened. They tried to behead Gabimaru. The sword shattered. They tried to burn him. The flames wouldn't take. They tried to drown him. He wouldn't die. His body, trained since childhood to survive at all costs, refused to let him die, even though his mind had accepted death. And here's the horrifying irony. Gabimaru wanted to die. He believed that without his wife, life wasn't worth living. That if he couldn't be with Yui, there was no point in existing. But his body, programmed by years of brutal conditioning, had a will of its own. The hollow might be cracking, but the survival instinct remained absolute. This created a devastating internal conflict. His conscious mind, let me die, I have nothing to live for. His subconscious programming, survive at all costs, you must live. He was trapped between wanting to die and being unable to. Then Yamada Asaemon Sagiri appeared. She was an executioner from the prestigious Yamada clan, swordswoman tasked with monitoring death row convicts. And she saw something in Gabimaru that he couldn't see himself. She told him, "You want to live." Gabimaru denied it. He insisted he had accepted death, that without Yui, existence was meaningless. But Sagiri pushed back. Then why does your body keep fighting? Why does it refuse to die? If you truly had no attachment to life, you'd be dead already. And in that moment, Gabimaru realized the truth he'd been denying. He wanted to see Yui again, not in the afterlife, not as a memory. He wanted to return to her, to hold her, to live the peaceful life they dreamed about. For the first time in his life, Gabimaru had a reason to live that was his own. Not a mission assigned to him, but a choice he made. The shogun offered Gabimaru a deal: travel to a mysterious island called Shinsenkyo, rumored to be paradise itself, and retrieve the elixir of immortality. Succeed and receive a full pardon. It was a death sentence disguised as mercy. Countless others had been sent to the island, none returned, but Gabimaru accepted, because even a slim chance of seeing Yui again was worth any risk. This decision marks his transformation, from someone who killed because he had to someone who fights because he chooses to. He's no longer a weapon. He's a man with agency, will, purpose, and that's when the real test begins. Shinsenkyo isn't paradise, it's hell wearing paradise's mask. The island is ruled by beings called the Tensen, immortal entities who've mastered an ancient energy called Tao, and they're not interested in granting wishes. They're interested in consuming humans to maintain their immortality. Gabimaru arrives on the island with his old skills: speed, strength, ruthless efficiency. He's one of the deadliest humans alive, and he's completely outmatched. The Tensen possess abilities that make normal combat irrelevant. They regenerate from fatal wounds. They manipulate the environment. They kill with techniques that ignore conventional defense. Gabimaru can't win, not as he is. To survive Shinsenkyo, he has to learn Tao, and learning Tao requires confronting everything he's been running from. Tao, in Hell's Paradise, is life energy itself, the fundamental force of existence. It's based on Taoist philosophy, specifically the concept of yin and yang, opposing forces that are not enemies, but complementary halves of a whole, masculine and feminine, strength and weakness, hard and soft, fire and water. The Tenshin have mastered Tao because they've achieved perfect balance between these opposites. They can shift their bodies between male and female forms. They embrace both strength and weakness simultaneously. They exist in the space between extremes. This is called the middle way. And it's the one thing Gabimaru, with all his training and skill, has never understood. A young girl named Mei tries to teach Gabimaru about Tao. She keeps saying, strong, weak, strong, weak. Gabimaru doesn't understand. He focuses only on strong. That's all he was trained for. Strength is good. Weakness is death. But Mei isn't saying strong or weak. She's saying strong and weak. Tao requires you to accept contradictions within yourself, to acknowledge that you are both powerful and vulnerable, both capable and limited, both the weapon and the human. Gabimaru can't do this because his entire identity is built on denying weakness. He was trained to be the Hollow, to have no weakness, no vulnerability, no softness. Admitting weakness would mean admitting his training was wrong, that he was broken, not perfected. So even though he desperately wants to master Tao to survive and return to Yui, he can't. Because accessing Tao means accepting the very thing his conditioning taught him to destroy, his humanity. This is when Sagiri's words echo back. That's not weakness, it's the seed of strength. Gabimaru thought his inability to kill her was weakness, proof that he was becoming soft, useless, doomed. But Sagiri understood what he didn't. His hesitation wasn't weakness. It was humanity returning. The fact that he couldn't kill an innocent person anymore wasn't a flaw in his programming. It was his true self breaking through the conditioning. And it's precisely this weakness, this capacity to feel, to hesitate, to care, that gives him access to Tao. Because Tao requires balance. And you can't balance between strength and weakness if you deny weakness exists. The middle way isn't about being moderate or lukewarm. It's not about compromising between extremes. It's about holding opposites simultaneously without letting one destroy the other. You can be strong and vulnerable. You can be capable and need help. You can be a deadly fighter and someone who loves deeply. These aren't contradictions to be resolved. They're polarities to be balanced. Think of it like this: a tree is strong because its trunk is rigid, but it survives storms because its branches are flexible. If it were only rigid, it would snap. If it were only flexible, it would fall over. True strength comes from holding both. Gabimaru was trained to be all rigid, all strength, all hardness, all hollow, and it made him effective. But it also made him brittle. Yui softened him, and that softness, paradoxically, is what makes him truly dangerous. During a battle, Gabimaru loses his memory. He reverts completely to Gabimaru the Hollow, the emotionless killer with no attachments. And in this state, he's ferocious, brutal, absolutely ruthless. But he's losing, because pure strength without balance can't defeat enemies who've mastered Tao. His anger clouds his perception. His aggression makes him predictable. He's never been more hollow and never been weaker. Then Mei reminds him, think of what you're fighting for. And suddenly, the image of Yui floods back. Her smile, her gentleness, the life they want together. In that moment, Gabimaru understands. His love for Yui isn't weakness. It's not a distraction or a liability. It's the source of his true power. When Gabimaru finally grasps Tao, it's not by becoming stronger, it's by accepting his weakness. He admits he's afraid of dying. Weakness acknowledged. He admits he needs others. Vulnerability accepted. He admits he loves Yui more than anything. Softness embraced. And in accepting all of this, he becomes far more powerful than the Hollow ever was. Because now he's not fighting from emptiness. He's fighting from fullness, with purpose, with meaning, with something precious to protect. The Tenshin are shocked. They've never seen a human master Tao so quickly, and they don't understand how. But Sagiri does. She tells Gabimaru, you were never weak. You were becoming whole. Let's compare Gabimaru the Hollow. Before, emotionless killing machine. Fights, because ordered to. No attachments, no purpose. Powerful but brittle. Can kill anyone without hesitation. Cannot access Tao. No balance. Gabimaru the human. After, fights for love and purpose, chooses his battles. Deep attachments to Yui, Sagiri, others, powerful and flexible. Hesitates to kill innocents, humanity intact. Masters, Tao, embraces balance. The second version is objectively stronger, not because he's more skilled, but because he's complete. There's a beautiful moment where Gabimaru faces Rien, the leader of the Tensen. She's holding onto the preserved body of her husband Jofuku, who died 1,000 years ago. Rien expects Gabimaru to destroy the body to weaken her. It's the tactical choice. But Gabimaru hesitates, because he understands what it's like to love someone that deeply, to fight for centuries just for the chance to see them again. He looks at Rien and sees himself, someone whose entire existence revolves around reuniting with the person they love, and he can't bring himself to destroy that. This weakness, this empathy, this inability to crush someone else's love is precisely what makes him human. And it's what allows Rien to finally accept her husband's death and let go. Strength would have prolonged the fight. Weakness, compassion ended it. Gabimaru's journey teaches us something profound about systems that treat people as tools. When you train someone to be a perfect weapon, you're not making them stronger, you're making them less human, less adaptable, less capable of the very connections that give life meaning. The Iwagakure method created an effective assassin, but it created someone who couldn't experience joy, couldn't form genuine bonds, couldn't choose his own path. A weapon has no will. And without will, you're not strong, you're just controlled. Gabimaru's transformation isn't about becoming weaker, it's about reclaiming agency, about choosing to fight rather than being compelled to kill. And that choice is what separates a human from a weapon. Here's the philosophical core of Gabimaru's story. Vulnerability is not the opposite of strength, it's the foundation of it. When Gabimaru was hollow, when he couldn't be hurt emotionally because he felt nothing, he seemed invincible. But he was actually at his weakest, because he had nothing to fight for, no reason to push past his limits, no will to survive beyond programming. But when he opened himself to loving Yui, when he became vulnerable to the pain of potentially losing her, he discovered reserves of strength he never knew existed. Because you can't fight with everything you have unless you have something worth fighting for. Olympic athletes endure brutal training not because they love pain, but because they love something on the other side of it. Parents lift cars off children not because they're strong, but because love gives them temporary superhuman ability. Strength without vulnerability is just mechanical force. Strength with vulnerability is limitless. Let's return to Sagiri's words. That's not weakness, it's the seed of strength. A seed doesn't look strong. It's small, fragile, vulnerable. You could crush it with your fingers, but inside that seed is the potential for an entire tree. Gabimaru's hesitation to kill Sagiri was the seed. His love for Yui was the seed. His compassion for others was the seed. These didn't seem strong at the time. They seemed like cracks in his armor, flaws in his programming, but they were the beginning of something far more powerful than the Hollow ever was. Because from that seed grew the ability to access Tao, the strength to protect others, the will to defy impossible odds, the capacity to show mercy without weakness, the wisdom to know when to fight and when to stop. The Hollow could kill anyone, but the human could save everyone. Gabimaru's story asks a fundamental question. What makes you who you are? Is it your abilities, your training, what you can do? Or is it your choices, your connections, what you care about? For years, Gabimaru thought he was defined by being the Hollow, by his capacity to kill without emotion. That was his identity, his purpose. But he was wrong. He wasn't defined by his emptiness. He was defined by what filled that emptiness when he finally let something in. His love for Yui, his partnership with Sagiri, his determination to protect those weaker than him. These weren't weaknesses that diluted his strength. They were the things that made him strong in the first place. Is this how weak I've become? Gabimaru asked this question standing over Sagiri, unable to kill someone who, by his old logic, should have died. But the question itself reveals his transformation, because the old Gabimaru wouldn't have asked. He would have just killed. The fact that he questions his weakness means he's already become something more than a weapon. And Sagiri's answer? That's not weakness, it's the seed of strength. captures the entire philosophy of his journey. Becoming human isn't about getting weaker, it's about becoming whole. The Hollow was strong, yes, but only in one dimension. He could kill with efficiency, but he couldn't love, he couldn't choose, he couldn't grow. The human is strong in ways the Hollow never could be. Not because he's a better fighter, but because he fights for reasons that matter. Weapons break, but humans endure. And Gabimaru's journey from one to the other is a testament to something we all need to hear. The things that make you vulnerable, your attachments, your emotions, your capacity to care, aren't weaknesses to eliminate. They're the very things that make you powerful. Because at the end of the day, strength without purpose is just violence. But strength with purpose, that can change the world. That's the philosophy of Gabimaru the Hollow, or more accurately, Gabimaru the Human. If you've ever felt like you have to choose between being strong and being vulnerable, or like caring about things makes you weak, Gabimaru's story is for you. Because it reminds us that true strength doesn't come from emptiness, it comes from fullness. From loving something enough to fight for it, from caring enough to hesitate, from being human enough to balance the weapon and the heart. If this resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments. What's your seed of strength? What vulnerability makes you powerful? Like and subscribe for more anime philosophy that explores the hardest questions about power, humanity, and what it means to be truly strong. And if you want to support the creation of more deep dives like this, these philosophy videos take days of research, scripting, and analysis to get right. Consider supporting the channel on Ko-fi. The link is in the pinned comment below. You can even request a specific character or anime you'd like me to analyze next, and your support helps me dedicate more time to bringing you the quality content you deserve. But whether you support or not, I'm just grateful you watched this far. Thank you for being here. Until next time, remember, being hollow isn't strength, being whole is.